Welcome to Expedient Means with Lin Wei on Tom on Radio. Lin currently resides in China and is the founder and head teacher of Guizhen Philo-Cultural Society. He has extensive experience in Buddhist and Taoist meditation, Qigong, martial arts, and traditional Chinese medicine. To learn more about Lin, please visit his website at www.guizhenhui.net. Tonight, Lin will be continuing his commentary on the Tao Te Ching chapters 51 through 60. Welcome back, Lin.
Hello.
Going to decode the true translation, true meaning of the Tao Te Ching again, right?
Yes, and then I'm going to paint a picture and put all these weird symbols in it, and about 500 years later, people are going to start up with more crazy theories about everything. And I'm going to paint like a really super awesome, cool spaceship in there, so they can think that I actually made up this idea that we're going to have spaceships in the future.
It would be funny to go back in time and see what they think of all of our analysis of their culture. They're probably like, you guys are so wrong about everything.
Yeah.
All right.
Probably.
All right, I'm going to start with 51 here. And are you ready?
Okay, let's go.
Okay. Tao produces them, virtue raises them, things shape them, forces perfect them. Therefore, all things respect the Tao and value virtue. The respect for Tao, the value for virtue, not due to command, but due to constant nature. Thus Tao produces them, virtue raises them, grows them, educates them, perfects them, matures them, nurtures them, protects them, produces but does not possess, acts but does not flaunt, nurtures but does not dominate. This is called mystic virtue.
Awesome.
So I have a feeling this one may be about virtue, but I'm not quite sure.
You know, let's not assume. You know what happens when we assume. Okay. Well, let's look at the word produces, okay? Because this is a very important thing here. Produces. Oh, wait, hold on. My whole entire thing just went offline.
Which thing?
Hold on 1 second. Okay, no, I lost all my work for a moment. And we don't have to take this off. This is a fun, nice little intermission. Everyone get your glass of soda. I'm just coming right back to, okay, we're done. my cheat sheets, actually. Just to let everyone know, I sit here and I write out the commentary before I actually sit here and read it and we discuss it. Sometimes I wing it. Other times I don't. Who knows?
You know, I try to trip Lin up as much as I can.
Yeah.
Take him off target.
Well, getting back to the story here, let's look at this word produce. Okay, produces means come from, not that it is made out of nothing. You know, quote unquote nothing. You know, as things arise, this virtue said to raise them. Means not the virtue by means of having good etiquette, but of that which is realized when there is no discriminating thinking. See, that kind of experience is called virtue. It has been explained as standards for conduct in various sutras and texts over the ages. Things shape them. This means that which arises is said to have form. Forces perfect means that they are further refined not by temperament, but by what is known as a quote-unquote natural force, or the manifestation of movement and process. Well, the next part, therefore all things respect the Tao and value virtue. The respect for Tao, the value of virtue, not due to command but to constant nature. Okay, that means because there is no false thinking, because the purity of such has not been defiled. So the one who cultivates in this way is in realization of true virtue. It isn't a forced one. It isn't a forced virtue, like you have to try to make yourself do things. It is a realized and is a realized virtue and followed without having to follow. So some people may say that there's no virtue, and all this practicing virtue and being a nice person and all that is against the will of against nature and all that. But that's wrong, because in cultivation you come to a point that there is no need to make yourself. It's not mechanical anymore. And it's not that you've conditioned yourself so much to be this way that you're just being this way, that there is no discussion in your mind. There's no dichotomy in your mind that what you are doing is something learned. It is just a natural, I'll put it out there like, just for the sake of saying, a response. Okay? This wasn't written. That part was right off the top of my head. Okay.
So, quick question now. Some people that would consider themselves Taoist, or say they follow a Taoist path, would say, "Oh, you should just follow nature." And if you look at how the animals behave in nature, they just follow their instincts, and they just, if they want to eat, they kill something and eat it. So we should just emulate the animal kingdom and act like animals. What do you think about that?
I just think if you want to be reborn as an animal, go ahead and do just that. And why? I'm not putting down another, life form or another species, but I'm just saying, why would a human emulate an animal when, in terms of usefulness of physical body and vibration, an animal is not that useful. A human's body is useful. A lot of different types of beings want the human body because it is one of the best methods of cultivation and of realization and of experience. The animal body isn't. So why would we want to emulate an animal? I mean, do they really follow nature? Understand the consciousness of animals. Why are they animals? Why do they do the things they do? Why are they stuck in this cycle of when they're hungry, they have to go out and find food and then hunt it and then kill it and eat it? I mean, why are they stuck in that kind of cycle?
They
Notice you,
just follow their appetites, I guess, more than the mind, or
right,
more.
and then we'll have to look at what makes the appetite that way. What makes the conditions that the appetite has to follow? It's karma. I mean, humans are very diverse. Just because we have five fingers and five toes, well, you know what I mean. On one hand, you have five fingers. Okay, someone's saying, "Oh, he's crazy." He said humans only have five fingers. I mean, we have a set amount of things that we have with our body that you're born with your body, but that's just the base. The mind, when you find how it can work or how it does work with this body, is limitless. So humans have various amounts of, I'm not going to say possibilities, but mannerisms that they live by. Their karma is very, diverse. So why would you want to emulate something on a less wise level just because they live in the forest? I wouldn't do that. Why don't you just be a tree then? It doesn't kill anything. It just stands there or whatever it is doing and just does what it does. Doesn't kill anybody. Doesn't kill anything. So no, don't follow animals because they follow nature. Humans are an animal species as well, and do we follow nature?
Yeah, good point, actually.
I mean, animals don't really follow nature. They just follow their karma. Humans so far have just been doing that thing too, just following their karma, going with the flow. That's nothing special, you know? We got to
Yeah.
go further. That's why there's a human body, so we can go further in our practice.
Okay, I just had to try to sidetrack you for a bit.
Nice. But let me finish this one.
All right.
Well, the next two stanzas speak on the source, quote unquote source, and all that arise within it. So naturally are all of the same substance, which is manifest as a virtue. Hence the phrase by the Buddha, the nature of all living beings is compassionate. In this virtue, in this original state, there is no need or thought of grasping, showing off, or controlling. Because there is this overall realization of a quote unquote oneness, then there is no false thinking. And it is thus recognized by the false thinking mind as a mystical virtue. So when all are this way, it is just that way. You know. Oh, oh yeah. Cool. Shall we
That's it. You
continue?
want me to go on?
Hey, you have something else to throw in this one?
I could sidetrack you for a couple more hours, but I digress. All right, chapter 52. The world has a beginning. We regard it as the mother of the world. Having its mother, we can know her children. Knowing her children, still holding on to the mother, live without danger all through life. Close the mouth, shut the doors. Live without toil all through life. Open the mouth, meddle in the affairs. Live without salvation all through life. Seeing details is called clarity. Holding on to the soft is called strength. Utilizing the light, return to the clarity. Leaving no disasters for the self. This is called practicing constancy.
Fun, fun, fun. Wonderful. So, the first stanza refers to knowing the causes and conditions of all things, especially for one's own attainment of a human body, or just to say one's own quote unquote existence. When you know the causes, you know the outcomes. Thus, the cause begets another outcome, which is just another cause for another outcome. And knowing this, there will be no troubles ever. Second and third stanza refers to cultivation in terms of what we call outflows, or the nourishing of causes and outcomes. So, close the mouth, shut the doors refers to the senses. When the senses leak out your attention, meaning when one is grasping, attached to the experiences their senses encounter, they waste their energy. Closing the mouth, well, it is said that if the mouth is kept open, myriad diseases enter the body. And thus, if this is adhered to, then one's life experience would be without extremes of suffering, which is sicknesses, crazy sicknesses. On the other hand, opening the mouth, meddling in affairs, meaning being taken by the senses, results with strife, suffering, etc., all throughout one's lifetime. So sickness, pain, confusion, etc., it means that.
I've heard even like talking, the act of speech, even is an outflow of chi or an outflow of energy.
Yes. Yes. I mean, why not just use mental telepathy?
I try, but my dog just looks at me when I do it. So the
I
other
do that
thing,
to my little baby, and he just looks at me and goes, "Arr."
the other thing I was thinking too is close the mouth and shut the doors could indicate in meditation, right? Breathing in through the nose and closing the eyelids.
Well, it's referring to all orifices of the body as well. Anything with an opening is a waste of energy. Our skin, our pore, which is the pores, our hairs, our fingers, eyes, nose, mouth, ears, anus, anything that extends out of the body or has a hole into the body is a leakage point. So
Especially our sexual orifices.
yes, 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 all of those things too. That's why I said specifically anything sticking out or going in. Okay. Um, less graphic there, huh?
All right.
Um, yeah, so that's why we practice qigong. You know, we want to keep our energy in, strengthen up our external or the radiation of our energy, which is the wei qi, that extending energy out of the body, protective energy. We want to protect that or keep that strong. Now, the last stanza points to seeing, but not with the eye organ, but with that which sees. You know, this means to see details. With the eye organ, we can only perceive of certain things. Yet, with that which sees, one can perceive of the endless occurrences. This is the clarity we're talking about. And it's holding. Oh, I'm in my office, so we're going to have some background noise for about 3 to 5 minutes. Okay. So, the last portion of this, holding to the soft, refers to non action by lessening the strength or grasping of the false thinking mind. Okay. Um, utilize the light means to turn one's energy inward instead of outwards from the senses. So this is a return to clarity, or at least this is what results from doing things this way. You know, clarity results. So no disasters means no confusion, and thus this constancy is just a word used to describe the thus come state of the original nature, neither coming nor going.
The holding onto the soft is called strength. It brings to mind the concept that yin at its extreme becomes hard and yang at its extreme becomes soft. So if you maintain that soft yinness, you can eventually achieve a strength.
Yes, that's why I tell my students when they're practicing their standing exercises or even just martial arts practice, I tell them that, you know, your softness and your positioning is going to be the stronger point um, to your applications. That's just in application wise. And in standing, it's not trying to use so much muscular force to keep your body in a position for a long period of time. So you allow a more subtle type of strength or like a more proper energy to not enter but strengthen in the body. So yes, it goes along with what you're saying.
Okay. You want me to carry on?
Yes, carry on, carry on.
Okay. Chapter 53. If I have a little knowledge, walking on the great Tao, I fear only to deviate from it. The great Tao is broad and plain, but people like the side paths. The courts are corrupt, the fields are barren, the warehouses are empty. Officials wear fineries, carry sharp swords, fill up on drinks and food, acquire excessive wealth. This is called robbery. It is not the Tao.
Oh, doesn't it almost reflect like so much that's going on in our political world too?
Indeed, yeah.
Let's keep it simple. Well, the very simple meaning. The more you think and create notions of knowing how things are, basically attaching to views of a self, personality, others, and a lifespan, or better yet, just attaching greatly to and not being able to let go of self-thought of notions of the Tao, then you are left with ignorance, confusion, and the three poisons of greed, anger, and ignorance. Hence the second and third stanzas. So yeah, you can go into the political aspect, but let's not do that. So let's continue on this point. Being broad and plain means to permeate all directions and includes all things. Thus, not one thing stands out above the rest. So it is called plain. Side paths refer to those practices and educations which have one rely on the notions of relying on someone for their benefit and creating notions of something higher, like a higher self, and or a godlike image they must aspire to. The rest of the passage speaks clearly that when there is greed, anger, and ignorance, it is not in accord with the actual way of all things, known as Tao. So, yummy.
Yeah, the part about people like to take the side paths. I mean, how many times do you see that with even cultivation, right? People,
Oh,
you give them
yeah.
something, plain and straight to the point, but people would rather, do these exotic practices that,
Yeah. Yeah.
again,
You know,
a lot of,
they do. Like, they'll go barefoot in their backyard, dig a hole, stand in the hole, cover their feet with the soil, and yeah, I'm growing roots out of my feet. This is what they mean by rooting. Sure. Or some will they would just do aesthetic practices before actually having the substance to be able to handle the aesthetic practices. So it's always best to do the simple, because if you ever come across a more exotic, quote unquote, exotic path, you'll be able to see clearly if it's actually going to take you directly or if it's going to take you, far around the corner, crossing some streets, getting lost, turning around and finding yourself in the ocean somewhere drowning.
and then the third stanza too, like officials wear fineries, carry sharp swords. I mean, that to me, the finery speaks of the ego. The sharp sword speaks of like aggression. The food speak of the appetites, and wealth speaks of greed, right?
It can be all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. As
Basically,
you
I
see
mean,
it and it makes you clear, then it can be that.
just basically all various attachments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, if Alonso was going to point out every single attachment, it wouldn't be 81 stanzas, 81 chapters. Damn,
Right.
we'll be going way out there. Way out there. It's myriad. It can be so much. So much.
10,000
Any,
things. All right, I'll carry on to chapter 54.
oh, yeah.
That which is well established cannot be uprooted. That which is strongly held cannot be taken. The descendants will commemorate it forever. Cultivated in yourself, its virtue shall be true. Cultivated in the family, its virtue shall be abundant. Cultivated in the community, its virtue shall be lasting. Cultivated in the country, its virtue shall be prosperous. Cultivated in the world, its virtue shall be widespread. Therefore, observe others within yourself. Observe their other families with your family. Observe other communities with your community. Observe other countries with your country. Observe the world with the world. With what do I know the world? With this.
And then he opens the palm of his hand and nothing is in there.
Dun, 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 dun.
With what do I know the world? Dun dun dun. That's when the dramatic music opens and then his hand just unfurls. With this. And then all his
And then all
students just
students
wide
gasp.
eyes. Yeah.
Oh.
And only one in the background is smiling, going and everyone goes, "What do you mean? Why are you laughing?" And then the student turns around, looks at Lanza, and Lanza smiles, and the student says, "Because he's saying you're both a bunch of idiots." Gasping absolutely at nothing. Can't you see he has a big gourd full of wine in the back and he's piss drunk?
Sacrilege, sacrilege.
Ah, you have to have some sense of humor sometimes. I'm kidding. I like to paint this really usual picture. Basically, I was like how people usually view things, and then they'll make a movie about it. I'm not saying about me. What I'm saying about what I just said. I mean, usually people make these slapstick comedies about serious things and turn the most serious situation, most profound teaching into some 5 second, comic skit. And it just makes people totally like, what the hell is the guy saying?
It's
He's so
funny.
retarded.
I think Derek Lin, in one of his commentaries on the Tao Te Ching, he was talking about comparing two movies, and one of them was Kung Fu Panda, and the other one was a Jackie Chan movie about an American kid who wakes up in ancient China. And basically, the Jackie Chan one did horrible because they took all these cliches and everything about Kung Fu and about Taoism and Buddhism, and they threw all these cliches together. And I guess the Chinese audience is just kind of rolling their eyes because they've already seen this in, 50,000 different Kung Fu movies, he said. But Kung Fu Panda did really well because it sort of captured the essence of the Tao without being too in your face about it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I like Kung Fu Panda. It's cute. And part two is cute too. So, so let me go on to this one
All
before
right.
we start talking about the panda. Um, excuse me. The first three sentences point at the principle of remaining unmoved in mind. Being unmoved means the senses do not move your mind. You are not taken to the left and to the right. So if you're unmoved, if you are still, then that inner wisdom, that inner light is stronger and stronger. So concentration power is even stronger. That is an expressed aspect of inner purity. The rest of this passage speaks about the view of self and even points into something Confucius used to say, see the elderly as your parents, see those older than you as your brothers and sisters, those younger than you as younger brothers and sisters, and children as your own. So it's stating that if you perceive others as separate from you, meaning not of the same quote unquote source, then separation will arise and various problems will follow. It's obvious, quote unquote, the knowing the world means that which is of your mind. That which is of your mind. So now we must ask, which mind do we mean? The false thinking mind or the original wisdom mind? So wisdom mind, that's what it means. With that or with this, all things are known. So he's going right to the extreme origin of all things. The bright wisdom mind, we'll call it, as it manifests in this relative world. It's this bright wisdom mind. And then it's goes even higher to this thusness, all permeating every directional thus nature. That's how he knows the world. It's non-discrimination. Yummy. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing as the Christian teaching, right? Is treat others the way you'd want to be treated yourself, I guess.
Well, yeah, you can take it in that aspect to it, which is exactly that, and then you just want to strip it from its basicness and just say, if I'm treating others as I treat myself, then what makes me different from other people? And then you'll see that there is no difference from other people and yourself in that aspect, and you're applying undefiled compassion.
Oh,
Ooh.
I was emulating the students.
That's great.
So and then in that, guys, what if you have someone that's acting like a total jerk to you? Do you have the right to kind of give them a smack upside the head? Like if you're thinking, 'cause sometimes if I'm acting like a jerk, I fully expect someone to come up and slap me in the side of the head. So is it okay for me to slap them in the side of the head?
Well,
If
I'm
that's
going to get. Okay,
if that's the way I want to be treated.
sometimes there's a lesson to be learned, and sometimes people who are very unruly and don't give you the chance to just get the hell out of the place, you have no choice either to let them go and slap you and beat you, and you can use that method as a teaching too. So finally, you look at them with these compassionate eyes while they're punching you in the face, and they somehow stop and they break down crying and realize that they did wrong. Or you get out of the way and you give them a good whipping, and either one of them work. I've done that too, and I'm not going to say worked in the sense of it's amazing every time you do it it'll work. No, it's just conditions that arise. According to those conditions, something may happen. Or you can give them a good whooping and then tell them you should not be doing this to people anymore. And sometimes you gotta give a nice hard kindness to people.
Yeah,
Or
sometimes some people that's the only way to get through to them, right?
yeah, and it's unfortunate, but that's that way, you know. I mean, I've come to situations where someone, when I was younger and throughout my 20s, people would want to go and really put a hurting on me, and I just say, okay, you can go for it, bring it, in a nice way. I didn't say bring it, you know. I would just turn around and be like, hey, if that's what you're gonna do, don't wait for the next day to see me. What are you scared of? You have 4 people here. Just take me now. Go for it. And they just say, well, if I see you again, I'm gonna beat you up and blah blah blah. Okay, well, I'll be at this such and such place tomorrow. I'm sure I'll meet you there. You know, and nothing happens. Then there's the person who needs a little nudge. You know, even just recently, I got into a little instance where a bicycle rider decided they're going to stop in front of the taxi I'm in and throw their bike with them on it onto the taxi just to say that the taxi hit them. But the woman driving the taxi was going so slow on the turn that she was able to stop. So the effect wasn't as strong as the person riding the bike wished. So he was drunk off his knocker, you know, and the woman got out of the car, and I'm waiting. So if I get out, then that just brings the testosterone levels higher of the man who has to prove himself. And anywho, I waited while another guy drove by and screamed at the drunken guy for blocking the road, and that just turned on the fire. At this point, I got out of the car because the drunken guy started hitting the car of the other dude, and I got out and. Me and the woman was really amazing. She was grabbing the guy's arms while he was trying to strike the other dude behind her. And I'm looking at her and I'm telling her, you're in the middle of this. Why don't you just get out of the way and let me take care of it? She goes, no, it's okay. I got him. So I was just on the side of her, putting my hand in between the both of them, controlling the other guy's hands. Then he turns to me, looks at me. I said, let me tell you something. All the guy said was, you're blocking the road. And you're going to get angry at him for that? Well, he starts trying to scream at me that, you know, the other person is a moron. You know, you shouldn't be talking to people like that. I said, yeah, but here you are. You didn't block the road, but technically we are all blocking the road. And here this total stranger tells you off not in an angry way. You know, he was a little, you know, aggressive about it, but not really to hurt you. And then you put something a stranger says in your heart. I mean, you really, really hold high what this man says. And all the while, I'm nudging the drunken. I'm right in front of him, so I'm nudging his hips back a little to push him away from the other guy. So as I'm talking to him, I'm lightly pressing him backwards to step back. So he goes to grab my hands, and I'm just running my hands over him, like turning my hands over and grabbing his hands very lightly and smiling and saying, look, it's okay. No one's fighting anybody here. The more you go to strike this man, the more problems you'll have. Look, you can go home, go to sleep, and have a nice night. Why have to start fighting with this guy? You don't even know him. Who cares what he says? And the guy just stopped in the middle of his ranting and raving. He looks at me with these widest, like tiger-like eyes, ready to prance on me, you know, ready to jump and rip my head off. Totally drunk, and he looks at me and says, who the hell are you? This inquisitive look, like, what are you? He says to me in Chinese, you know, who are you? And then he looks again, and he says, what are you? You know, Nisha Shay, that's what it is. So who are you? And then Nisha Shama, like, what are you? You know? And I'm telling him, I'm looking at him, I'm just smiling and saying, man, relax, man, come on, let's get your stuff, get out. And while he's screaming at the guy still, he still wants to yell at the guy, but now he's yelling at him in a nice way. You know, you shouldn't do this to people. You don't even know what's happening, you know. And I'm motioning for the other dude to get back in his car and drive away, not to sit there. So I turn around and look, and I was like, what's wrong with you? Get in your car and drive away. I mean, really? Must you stand here and, like, argue a point that you have no part of? And I laugh, and he looks at me, and he runs in his car and drives away.
I would have put on my best Sylvester Stallone accent and said, I'm your worst nightmare.
Yeah, or just turn around and say, I Batman.
Just to
And then
confuse
knock
him.
him in the head. Yeah.
No, that's not the best way to handle it.
No, but it kind of handled the situation. Small nudges just let the guy know that he should stop. And, you know, he couldn't get past me, so that kind of let him know that he has no choice but to stay in front of me.
Yeah.
You know, and it diffused the situation. It was a little mixture of both, you know. Mhm.
Well, very
But
good. Should we continue on?
let's continue.
All right, chapter 55. Those who hold an abundance of virtue are similar to newborn infants. Poisonous insects do not sting them. Wild beasts do not claw them. Birds of prey do not attack them. Their bones are weak, tendons are soft, but their grasp is firm. They do not they do not know of sexual union but can manifest arousal due to the optimum of essence. They can cry the whole day and yet not be hoarse due to the optimum of harmony. Knowing harmony is said to be constancy. Knowing constancy is said to be clarity. Excessive vitality is said to be inauspicious. Mind overusing energy is said to be aggressive. Things become strong and then grow old. This is called contrary to the Tao. That which is contrary to the Tao will soon perish.
Fun stuff. So here again, the $1,000,000 word. Virtue means
Discriminating mind.
non-discriminating.
Non-discriminating
Yeah,
mind.
yeah, non-discriminating. And why? Because when there is a discriminating thought that creates a vibration of separation and emanated a feeling of taking away, living beings feel as though there is a threat. Kind of when you just try to imagine what that feels like, right? They don't feel at peace. So the first stanza speaks the responsive animals who do not create false views, but only know what they experience. As well, it talks on infants not knowing the ways of sexual union between people, but that they can feel arousal. This doesn't mean that they, at an infant age, have an erection or feel hot and bothered. It means the movement of energy through the body and energy centers is unimpeded. Thus, the ordinary movement of energy isn't discriminated on as requiring something to be done about it physically. You know, they may grab themselves, but it's without false thought of needing some sort of gratification. Because their essence is full and not wasted by masturbation or false thinking, they will not be hoarse in their voice from screaming or crying, and this is because their body is full of energy, it is not wasted away, therefore their body's various functional systems are not weakened.
I've read
Yeah.
some Taoist manuals that say this is kind of a side topic, but just I'm curious what your thoughts are. Let's say when a child is born, they're almost all yin, and then as they age and get into puberty, say that around the age 18 or 17 or so, they become almost their energy level sort of peaks at the yang stage. Then after that, it's all sort of downhill back to yin.
On the relative level, on the relative sense of physicality, physical nature, physical body itself, um, you can see the body goes through its growth periods of greater yin, greater yang, lesser yin, lesser yang periods. So there's an intermingling of these states of yin and yang. But generally, as a human itself, a human is both yin and yang. So there is no kind of energy-wise, you're just a little bit more yin, you're just a little bit more yang. You're both yin and yang when you're in cultivation of anything. It doesn't matter if you're a cultivator sitting meditating or you're just sitting there at your desk doing a 9 to 5 job. You're cultivating. Everything you do is cultivating something. You're nourishing some kind of view, some type of thought, some type of something in your mind. Your energy will vibrate at those kind of levels. So one can become a ghost or one can become a god. Just put it that way. I'm just using this term just for the sake of saying. You know, you can either become demonic or you can become a Buddha. You can become immortal or a good one or an evil one. I mean, it doesn't matter. So you're both yin and yang. But through physical growth, you can be said to go through stages of greater yin and lesser yang, and then greater yang and lesser yin, and then vice versa.
Okay, I was just curious because of the word optimum of essence, right? Or yeah, but
Cool. Well, let's go here about vitality. Excessive vitality means when your essence isn't cultivated, your mind isn't cultivated, and thus discriminative thinking is a constant occurrence, meaning the mind is thinking endlessly, and in turn leads to sickness both physically and mentally. Let me go further. Things are strong and then grow old points to the waxing and waning of life force expressed through the physical body. Exactly what you just brought up. The higher yang, the yin and yang aspects of physical growth, whatever the hell you just said. Because of because of excessive vitality, as we explained before, withering away will be inevitable. But that doesn't mean one's body will live forever. It just means that the mind becomes weaker and weaker, attaching, grasping, and revolving in endless cycles of cause and effect. That is contrary to the Tao in regards to there not being anything that can be attached to. Perish doesn't mean suffer and then disappear. It means to experience the outcomes of one causes without a pause. Changes the idea here. Perish, it's like, you will perish for this. That means you undergo suffering and then you die. And then poof, you turn to wind, dust in the wind, and you start singing that song. Everything is dust in the wind or whatever. Here, it means that you actually experience the outcomes of your causes without stopping, without there being a stop, a pause, without there being a breath of fresh air. So if it's good causes that you planted, then you're reaping good outcomes. If it's negative causes you planted, then you're reaping negative outcomes. And it's just that way.
I was thinking with the excessive vitality said to be inauspicious, I was sort of thought that was pointing towards sexual desires.
Excessive vitality. Well, yeah, you can see it that way, of going, a person has a really strong libido, right? Or they really want to go out there and that's all they're thinking about. And that wastes away their yang qi, wastes away their energy. So that's excessive vitality too. Put in the wrong places, it gets wasted away regardless.
All right, should we carry on?
Yes, sir.
All right. Those who know do not talk. Those who talk do not know. Close the mouth, shut the doors, blunt the sharpness, unravel the knots, dim the glare, mix the dust. This is called the mystic oneness. They cannot obtain this and be closer. They cannot obtain this and be distant. They cannot obtain this and be benefited. They cannot obtain this and be harmed. They cannot obtain this and be valued. They cannot obtain this and be degraded. Therefore, they become honored by the world. This is a good one.
This is a fun one, definitely. I've heard this first part of this passage used millions of times.
Yeah.
Jeez, man. I mean, even in the most common, normal, regular conversations that have nothing to do with cultivation, and even with those about cultivation, it's used just to shut people out in an argument over what is and isn't quote unquote the way. Oh my God, it's just a headache, and it's so silly. And those who know do not talk. What the hell does that mean? Knowing is without a discriminating mind. This means when one relies on worldly knowledge, intellect only, and does not meditate, does not investigate their mind, they truly do not know. Thus the following, those who talk do not know. So basically, since one doesn't investigate their mind, they would be prone to the grasping of the senses and be taken on a ride of many lifetimes. That doesn't mean just because one meditates they know. It just means that once inner wisdom is realized, or that the mind is not hindered by false thinking and attachments or false notions, then truly speaking, anything that is spoken is only said to be spoken. Yet no one has actually said a word. These two lines point to the one who is without discrimination and one who is. It has nothing to do with talking about the Tao and then having someone say that it's false because that person is talking about it and knows nothing. The Tao Te Ching said so. The Tao Te Ching said it's this way, so you don't know a damn thing because you're talking about the Tao Te Ching. If there was no discussion about the Tao, then no one would really know anything about it. No one would have the capacity to realize that there is something and nothing simultaneously. I mean, really, come on. Jeez, just don't attach to what it is that you're discussing, that you're quote-unquote philosophizing about. It's fine. They close the mouth, shut the doors, blunt the sharpness. That whole phrase, I love it. This is great because it's a formula for cultivation. Close the mouth, we said before, right? Don't bring in cold air and other types of diseases into the body. On top of that, don't waste your energy speaking all day long. Add to that, when one speaks, their words also can influence others and cause them to do silly things. So instead of talking all day long and putting out such clever sayings, keep your energy to yourself. Don't waste it up. Shut the doors. All the orifices of the body leak energy. So how to shut them? Bring your concentration inward. In the winter, dress accordingly. In the summer, dress accordingly. As we say in Chinese, basically, it's when it's cold outside, just wear warmer clothes so you don't waste away your energy. The cold take away your energy. Keep that in. Your eyes, your ears, everything, your pores, your skin, everything. They have holes on them. Wherever there's a hole in the body, cover it up. Practice your qigong, practice your meditation, whatever it is that you're cultivating, quote unquote energy work, whatever. You want to keep your body warm. Doesn't matter, you can generate heat in your body. Why would you want to waste that energy anyway? I mean, one of my students had asked me, what do you do in the winter? I say, I wear a heavy jacket. But can't you like generate heat? I'm like, well, what if I could? Why would I want to waste it on just keeping warm? I mean, the next day is just going to be as cold anyway, so I got to keep burning my furnace every friggin' day just to
That's
keep
a lot
warm
easier.
and say,
A lot easier just to put the coat on.
yeah, I mean, common sense. It's cold. Wear gloves, put earmuffs on, wear a hat. You know, I mean, really. Blunt the sharpness, quick thinking, false thinking mind as well as its fuel. It's fuel, the false thinking mind. When you think quickly, it's your false thinking mind. Not that you think quickly and then that's just your false thinking mind. No, all I'm saying is that you're just thinking without actually having a base for thinking, or you're responding without having actually known what is happening. It's fuel. That kind of thing is fuel. It's fuel for the views and attachments of the habits of doing just that thing. This one is for the mind. Huh?
Okay, one of the lines are mix the dust. What does he mean by that?
Mix the dust refers to the various myriad attachments, notions, views, thoughts in your mind. You can't find them if they're all settled. So you throw a pebble in the pond, focus on one thought. It seems like Chan, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally.
Oh, when you focus on one thought, everything begins to spin and spin. It's like thoughts from all over the place arise, desires arise, craziness arises. Then you get to release your attachments to them one by one.
So basically, investigate the mind, stir things up. Okay.
Yes.
And also blunt the sharpness. I think in a lot of these stanzas, the mind is compared to a sword or a blade, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, blunt the sharpness is just quiet down the mind.
Okay.
Meditate. And unravel the knots is referring to the senses. How to unravel the senses, bring your concentration inwards, right? Illuminate within, not within the body, but with just the mind, which encompasses the body, just for the sake of saying that,
All right. I was thinking knots as attachments, but I guess it's the same thing.
Yes. Dim the glare, keep your eyes slightly closed. That's all. We said it before. When you're meditating, keep your eyes slightly closed. Also, it means to hide the light. It means don't show off what you are, quote unquote, attaining. Don't go wear it on your shoulder. Don't wear it like a badge. Don't put it on a sign on your forehead. Because I got the fourth jhana. I got the first jhana. I can make heat emanate out of my body so I don't get cold in the winter. Dim the glare is hide the light. Don't be such a smart ass. Even if maybe you just don't need to say. That way it's better for you virtue-wise. Mystic oneness is a cute term for realizing one's inherent wisdom, seeing one's original face. So try to put this whole entire section together. It's like a formula telling you how to cultivate.
Very cool, very cool. This again is one of the more popular chapters of the Tao Te Ching, for sure. Mm-hmm. Shall I carry on?
Carry on, sir. Carry on.
All right, chapter 57. Govern a country with upright integrity. Deploy the military with surprise tactics. Take the world with non-interference. How do I know this is so? With the following. When there are many restrictions in the world, the people become impoverished. When people have many sharp weapons, the country becomes more chaotic. When people have many clever tricks, more strange things occur. The more laws are posted, the more robbers and thieves there are. Therefore, the sage says, I take unattached action and the people transform themselves. I prefer quiet and the people right themselves. I do not interfere and the people enrich themselves. I have no desires and the people simplify themselves.
I wonder when people read this, do they assume they are kings or presidents of a country? When they read it, if I was president of a country, this is what I would not do. And
well, it's funny you say that, because a lot of the Taoist writings actually compare the body to a country, right? And the senses to different parts, like the governors and such.
You're so funny. wait till I tell you how this goes. This is so funny. I can't believe you said that. It's so great. I mean, like, if people have assumed that they are actual kings and presidents or whatnot, they really did miss the point. Even if they assumed it was just for that, like the passage was just for a king or whatever president, and that it doesn't relate to ordinary person, then they really miss the meaning of this passage. So what you just said is really funny because a govern refers to concentration. A country, this refers to the body. Deploy the military, this refers to the six senses. Taking the world without interference means not imposing one's will on others, which further means not to grasp with your senses, not to be attached to the world experienced based on your senses. Basically means don't throw your energy away. Okay? So don't impose your own ideas on your own self thinking this is how you should do. So now we can look at it from a political position and basically state that the first stanza points to how to run a country and utilize the military. Now, but what of non-interference? It simply means not to grasp, but hatch, as we just said before, right? The rest of the passage discusses social problems, obviously. Excuse me. It seems like the society of law in Lao-Tzu's time isn't very different from now, actually. Nothing from the past ways of living are different from how they are now. All emotions, behavior, lifestyle, reaction, etc. I mean, these are just the same thing, just in different forms, right? Different tools that they arise with. If you really want to know the past, realize that the present just didn't pop out of nowhere, or even realize that our society wasn't just formed 200 to 300 years ago. I mean, I'm talking in terms of Western United States society, that whole area of the world.
You mean there's another area outside the United States?
I'm gonna tell you the truth here. I lived in New York almost all my life, except till I was 24 when I moved to China. But all that time, though I've been, and I know of the other 50 states, I really never left the tri-state area. And about a year and a half ago, when I came back with my wife to the United States, we took a ride to Pennsylvania, and I was like, "Oh my God, there's a world outside of New York."
Well, I'll tell you a story. When I was in Peru, I met an American girl. I think she'd actually been born in Peru and then moved to the United States, and she was young. And then we were on the bus, and she said, "Where are you guys from? The United States?" And I said, or something. No, she said, "Where are you guys from?" And I said, "Oh, we're from Canada." She said, "Canada? Is that a part of the United States?" My jaw pretty well hit the floor. But, yeah. Anyway, I digress. Carry on.
And I think there is this really superioristic, imperialistic view in New York, especially about this one specific tree that grew in Brooklyn. you know. Man, kudos to the prompter over here.
Oh, I haven't read the comments in the peanut gallery.
Oh, the peanut gallery. I would have never thought of that one myself.
Yeah.
So back to the idea here. It's just that the world wasn't formed 300 years ago, and all there was America and the Western civilization of that hemisphere of the world. That never happened because those who came to America were from other civilizations. It wasn't just that it popped out of nowhere. And those who were on the land known as America way before others came and created what we have now have been on the land way longer than any of our ancestors. So truthfully, society we have isn't American specific, but mixed European ideals. Whatever our society was built on was just a result, an extreme in response to the societal standards at those times. Even that has changed as well. So, and society slowly reverts back to the way it was prior to the Constitution of the U.S. Society here in America, or there in America. So now it's important to study history, but not from the government-sponsored books. I suggest traveling, hearing history from different people of various countries, even what is considered to be natives of certain lands. So the end of this whole passage, I take unattached action, means selflessness, and with that, it should steer you in the right direction for understanding why the people simplify themselves, is the last sentence of this passage. Then it should clear up the whole entire passage itself.
Yeah, and again, like I love this passage because you can again take it on multiple levels, right? Not this passage, this chapter. You can take it on multiple levels. But yeah,
Yes,
you can really see it as a metaphor for what's happened in the United States and the West in general.
yeah.
All right, you want me to carry on?
Okay. Yes, sir.
All right, chapter 58.
Oh, sorry, did I break your concentration?
Samuel, not again. Samuel keeps trying to join our show. We gotta cut him out every now.
I had to. Sorry. A little comedic response here.
Chapter 58. When governing is lackluster, the people are simple and honest. When governing is scrutinizing, the people are shrewd and crafty. Misfortune is what fortune depends upon. Fortune is where misfortune hides beneath. Who knows their ultimate end? They have no determined outcome. Rightness reverts to become strange. Goodness reverts to become wicked. Confusion of people has lasted many long days. Therefore the sages are righteous without being scathing, incorruptible without being piercing, straightforward without being ruthless, illuminated without being flashy.
Yeah.
Come on, I want to be flashy. I want to be flashy.
You want to be flashy? Be flashy. Be the glamour that you are.
Bad.
Look, here are social methods of cultivation. You see, when the government doesn't show off, people realize humility. Why? Because people hold the idea that if the government does so, then they must follow. It's the age-old behavior of monarch rule. The king is this way. He says it to be this way. It must be that way. Let's follow the king. Misfortune and fortune beget each other. The two extremes beget each other. This stanza talks of the relative ups and downs, the yin and yang of which people follow unknowingly. The sage knows conditions and causes and how to utilize them. The sage's skill is from virtue and nothing else. If there were a speck of greed in the sage's mind, they wouldn't be a sage. So the last stanza is straight to the point: to be humble, quiet about things. Don't show off, don't boast, don't be greedy, angry, and ignorant. Then not only can you truly reach people, you maintain and empower your wisdom mind, your virtue storehouse. Fun stuff.
I love the lines where it says, "When governing is scrutinizing, the people become shrewd and crafty." You know, it's like the more laws they pass, the more elaborate the tax code, the more loopholes people find to circumvent them, right?
I mean, really, it's like you're telling someone exactly how to go against the rules.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, why have laws then? Just have examples.
I'd go for that.
You know, have examples in society. The police, they lead examples of how people are to live, not enforce on what people should live by.
Yeah,
But that would just require people to take a responsibility for themselves and their actions. We can't have that.
I think they used to be called like peace officers, and then they changed the name to police officers, or something to that effect. I can't remember the exact terminology, but there's a slight shifting in the terminology.
Look, I heard a story of Master Xuanhua when his disciples were doing the three steps, one bow, and they were doing it from one portion of California to the city of 10,000 Buddhas. One day had come across a few guys hanging out on the street, and I think they were getting picked on or getting stuff thrown at them. I forget the story. As I'm talking, I'm trying to remember the title of the book they wrote. Anywho, they're sitting there, they're doing their 3 steps, 1 bow, and all of a sudden, you know, as they're getting picked on or so, Master Xuanhua just appears out of the blue and walks over to the group of teenagers that were like laughing at them, snickering and picking on them and throwing stuff at the monks, and gives them some beads, Buddhist prayer beads, and they were like astounded that it was like, oh my God, a Buddhist monk. It was like this great kung fu master or something just appeared out of nowhere and, you know, gave them something really crafty, really cool, you know, and they left the monks alone. Peace officer, you know, giving something that helps a person's mind instead of a slap in the head with a stick or a whatever. I mean, it's pretty tough. Society has to really get in change from where we are now to really let such a standard happen. But little by little, it can't be a national standard. I mean, you know, these are small communities after small communities. People lead by example. Then what the hell are the useful laws if people are just understanding that? But it takes a lot of responsibility. You know, it's a lot of work to do that. You have to just really let go of your ego and work together as people.
True, true. All right.
Okay, idealism is over. Chapter 58, I think. No, we go over 59.
1 second. Okay, chapter 59. In governing people and serving heaven, there is nothing like conservation. Only with conservation is it called submitting early. Submitting early is called emphasis in accumulating virtues. Accumulating virtues means there is nothing one cannot overcome. When there is nothing that one cannot overcome, one's limits are unknown. The limitations being unknown, one can possess sovereignty. With this mother's principle of power, one can be everlasting. This is called deep roots and firm foundation, the Tao of longevity and lasting vision.
Ooh, take the first 4 lines and reverse them. Then read the lines back from the lead the lines back from the way they were originally.
Really?
Submitting early, accumulating virtues. This means that accumulation means realization, not actual gaining something. A realization of one's wisdom, or realizing the Tao, as people like to say nowadays. So, hey, submitting early means putting down the ego self, personality, others, lifespan, those 4 views. It's dropping selfish thoughts of separation. With virtue... go ahead.
Anytime I read conservation, I'm always thinking of like sexual essence or sexual vitality. I must just have a dirty mind.
Continuing. With virtue full, who feels the harm? But feeling to harm is okay. Who actually follows through on harming another with full virtue? Should I say that again? With virtue full, who feels to harm? But feeling to harm is okay. Who actually follows through on harming another with full virtue? It is felt, this virtue.
The government?
Well, virtue is felt intuitively. You'll just know. So with great virtue, there is nothing one cannot do. So sovereignty means being first in the world, which means having realized enlightenment. I think in that case, there's no competition, and there is no one anyway. But among those who aren't, then there is one. Then when another one gets up there, then there's no more one and there's no more two. There's just no more. Moving on.
You want to go right to chapter 60?
Surely.
All right. Ruling
Surely.
alert. I like this this chapter as well.
Yeah,
Ruling
it makes me
large-
hungry.
Yeah. Ruling a large country is like cooking a small fish. Using the Tao to manage the world, its demons have no power. Not only do its demons have no power, its gods do not harm people. Not only do its gods not harm people, the sages also do not harm people. They both do no harm to one another, so virtue merges and returns. That's it.
I'm
like
hungry.
I like that, cooking a small fish.
You know, I got to stop right now. I'm going to go get some food. We can take this the cultivation direction and even the daily living non-cultivated direction, so let's do both.
Yeah, let's do both analogies.
Yummy. Excuse me. Wow.
So what's it like to cook a small fish? What does that mean?
It means you make sure it's alive first. When it's alive first, you actually hear it screaming. And cultivation-wise, the large country is the mind. The small fish is the single thought, which is concentrated on. To have control of the senses, over one's world of their mind, concentration must be strengthened, or the hordes of demons and demon kings will have a field day with you. With concentration power, demons and their kings have no such power to disturb you. That little fish is the one thought. So how can a sage harm people? You know, because there's a phrase in there that says the sages also do not harm people. So why do we have to reassure people that sages don't harm people?
False teachings, I would think.
we all think a sage is all fluffy, right? Loving and sweet, being that I will not harm people attitude, you know? I am a sage. I'm flying on a fluffy cloud. I'm not going to harm anyone. Here's a fluffy cloud sandwich. Eat and be compassionate and happy. Well, some sages don't want to bother with other people, you know? They don't want to bother with people, and so they're constantly being disturbed by others, quote unquote. Some sages may utilize anger to get rid of people. I think I told a story once. There was a time an arhat who meditated in a forest, stayed in a forest a little too long, and there was a city not too far away, like very near to the forest. So someone came to the arhat and asked him to help with something. But most of the story is the extreme details, or like the finer details that paint a beautiful picture. I forgot. So anyway, the arhat, the sage, helps this person, right? Then he moved to another tree because he doesn't want people to remember him. It's pretty inconspicuous, right? Let me just hide behind this other tree and no one will think I'm the same person. Well, soon that person told everyone about the arhat, what the arhat helped him with, whatever. And everyone, including the mayor, went to see the arhat. And he was so bothered by the commotion of everyone that he screamed, "Just go all and die! Leave me alone!" And everyone died on the spot. That story makes me laugh. So anger as a cultivator must be truly controlled, and if not totally cut off. I mean, you're a cultivator, you'll still be angry. You're not a sage. You're cultivating the Buddha Dharma. It could be 20 million lifetimes before you actually become a Buddha. Who knows? So you take your time, but don't waste your time. So that means really don't take your time. Write the word death on your forehead and remind yourself every morning, I'm going to die and I better get to working. Better get the Kraken.
Telling people it may take 20 million lifetimes may not help because most people have a hard time with the 20-minute attention span.
You know what I'm saying? Jeez. But if anyone wants to check out, there's a commentary by Master Xuanhua on the scripture of 42 sections, and I believe it talks about this story about the arhat who's sitting by a tree, and just with his anger and intensity just drops everyone dead, and that whole land became barren at some point. There's a continuation to the story for another type of principle, but don't look at me, I'm not a Buddha, I forgot.
So maybe some of the listeners may want to follow through with Master Zhenhua, and there's a couple different spellings. What are the two common spellings if people wanted to look them up?
HSUAN HUA or XUAN HUA.
Okay, and I was just going to add the part about cooking a small fish.
Yeah.
From my perspective, I think it would mean you need to keep your attention focused on it, because when you're cooking a small fish, it's very easy to overdo it. You know what I mean? If you take your attention away for a couple seconds, you can easily overcook the fish.
Especially when you're cooking Nemo, because he's so damn cute, you may destroy his cuteness with overheating.
But the cuter a fish is, the tastier it is too. So Nemo would probably be delicious.
Yeah. Probably.
Is that it? Is we wrapping it up?
That was the 10 chapters, I believe.
Cool. All right. Well, let me get our closing here, and today I'm not going to quote the final chapter of the Tao Te Ching.
Come on.
I'm going to quote the first two lines of chapter 56 again. Those who know do not speak, and those who speak do not know, so ignore everything that Lin says in these commentaries. Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right, thanks, Len.
Hey now.